Welcome to the Bishop Exchange, everybody. It's Des and John here, and Brad.
Yes.
No, I feel like every week we kind of like do it, and then we're like, oh yeah, and Brad's here.
And Brad.
It really,
Yeah, and Brad.
I think this should be the intro for the future, okay? Welcome to the Bishop Exchange. It's Des, John, and Brad here for another great episode.
Yeah,
episode 22. Episode 22 of the Bishop Exchange.
Yeah, but he's not a bishop, is he? So I think we say, there's welcome to the Bishop Exchange. There's Brad and the bishops, Des and John.
That's good.
I think that's starting to develop into a theme tune, because there you go. And the bishops, Des and John. It's the Bishop Exchange. So,
Brad, who doesn't use his second name, but it is Hurley, which is a great thing to bring up, because Cork won the Munster final in penalty shootout, which is very rare. Normally they have a replay. So here's for all the Cork Hurleys out there that are champions. Nobody cares really about that except for the Irish listeners.
Someone did comment saying that they wanted you to speak about it.
Oh yeah, well, I have a lot of my Cork roots. My Cork roots go back deep, and since I had to be embraced by somewhere as an immigrant to Ireland. People forget to classify me as such. Doesn't suit their narratives. But anyway, as an immigrant to Ireland, I had to be embraced. The Cork people embraced me. I started my career in Cork, but also I used to do a lot of routines about the Cork hurling team, particularly in the noughties, in the 2000s for the American listeners, because they don't get the naughty reference. So I kind of really felt connected to the Cork hurling team. Anyway, that's a very long-winded thing to say. Well done, Cork. Up the Rebels.
I know, having said that, it's an interesting thing for you to know, Brad, that when I did a travel show where I was traveling around Ireland, and I went to Cork, University, and met a guy there who's brilliant, Seamus, can't remember the surname now, who was a lecturer in folklore, Irish folklore.
Oh, right.
So he's talking about the fairies in Ireland and stuff like that. And the fairies in Ireland are not like the fairies in England and in America, where they're like nice and grant you witches. The fairies in Ireland are right bastards. They steal your children.
Oh, is that right?
I remember you talking about it in the show.
Yeah. They steal your children. So the boys in rural Cork, the rural parts of Ireland, they would dress them up in dresses so that the fairies didn't know that they were little boys.
Later on, the boys that wore dresses would be called fairies, but unconnected.
Unconnected. And which was very unfair on them. They spent a lot of their life not trying to be a fairy. But I think it was as late as 1920s.
I like the way you're telling this like it's a fact, like they used to steal children. I think you meant to say they thought that the fairies were stealing the kids.
Yeah, the folklore said that. But I'm sure, I'd have to look at the programme again, but I'm sure the last time they were actually cited in a legal case of a fella killing his wife because he thought that she'd been possessed by the fairies in the 1920s.
Really?
That's how like, this isn't something from the 1700s. This was something that was still prevalent in the county of Cork in the 1920s.
Yeah, but that's it. The mental illness stuff, like people think they're Jesus. Like people always think crazy shit.
No, but I think it's different. Like folklore is different in it because it's like religion. It's the reality that you're living in, whether it's true or not, is down to science and fact. But you can still believe it. So
you're saying it was okay
way.
that this guy killed his wife?
No, I'm not saying it was okay. I'm not saying it was okay. I'm just saying, I get it. I get it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Why did you kill your wife? Oh, the fairies.
The fairies.
Yeah.
The fairy defense, as it's famously called, the Netflix documentary. Anyway, so that's the beginning of that's what was on that was in the Spotify comments. I did notice that, Brad, also. But it was very exciting. I mean, if we were more...
Did you watch it?
No, I didn't watch it. No, honestly, I find it I find it hard to stay on top of it because they keep changing how the All Ireland series is done. You know, like it's really gotten complicated. So every year I'm totally unsure of what is happening, especially now that I'm over here. So one of these days I really got to get on top of it because every year there's like a new system of how it works. It used to be very simple, knockout. Then they brought in the back door. Now there's like the teams, even in the Munster Championship, teams play different teams. So I find it kind of a little complicated, but so there's no point in me telling you about it because I don't understand it myself.
Oh, okay. Oh, well.
Well, you know the way it is, like the Champions League, like whatever the European Cup used to be, a knockout. Then you know, like so these competitions are always evolving, which I'm not against. I like having more matches, you know. But I sometimes I get confused.
But it's got to be so that you can understand it. Like the Champions League this year, I didn't know what was happening until the semi-final.
That's what happens, man.
Because all the way up, it was like, are we through? We're not through. We're in the top. We're at the bottom. Who we playing? It was just so complicated that even I remember the first round. One of the pundits tried to explain what was happening. I was sat with me dad. I mean, Dad was going, am I old or is this shit? He said, this makes no sense. Anyway, it all comes out in the end, doesn't it?
Yeah, so anyway, Cork won the Munster final. So we'll see what happens now. I gotta pay attention now to the rest of the series because it gets complicated who plays who and different things. But they beat Limerick, by the way, which, you know, that also adds to the... Because Limerick have been quite dominant lately, you know? So this is a big moment. So anyway, sorry to bore you guys with... with that stuff. So, hey.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the questions I was going to ask you is it still right that you play for the county that you're born in? Or do you play for where you live?
Oh, well, I mean, it depends. Like, you don't play for the county you're born in if you moved and you live there full time. But, you know, like GAA, you have to be a member of a club, you know? So, like, I remember I was a member of the Volunteers in Wexford, right? Official member of the Volunteers. What? What are you laughing at?
Because that sounds so terrorist.
Well,
the Volunteers in Wexford. It's like,
well, actually, I think you'll find out that the Irish Volunteers were created in 1913 as a response to the persistent oppression of the British state. Okay, so anyway, that was 1913, not terrorists, freedom fighters. But anyway, we don't have time to get into the history of it, right? So that's one of the great divides of this podcast is whose side are we on in the history of Ireland? Sorry,
I'm Irish. I'm Irish. He's got an Irish name, and you're the only one who's lived there.
So anyway, listen. No, so anyway, the Volunteers was my club in Westwood when I was in boarding school in Westwood when I was a teenager, right? And the GAA doesn't forget. So in 2007, when I was making In the Name of the Fada, my television series about learning the Irish language, where I lived in a part of Ireland where they still speak the Irish language as their first language, I wanted to play Gaelic for Cumanpel Nivana, the local club of Lettermore, right? Conter na Nillan. But I had to get an official dispensation from the GAA because I'm a member of the Volunteers. I had to officially change my club, despite the fact that I hadn't played for the Volunteers since 1993. And I had to call a teacher of mine from my fucking teenage years, Mr. McCarthy, still alive, coincidentally enough, a Cork man from Youghal, County Cork, and he organized the paperwork for me. So you don't have to play for where you're born, but you know, like guys that move up to Dublin, sometimes they end up playing for a Dublin club. They could play for Dublin then if they were good enough, but people tend not to. But by the way, because you know the Gaelic Athletic Association, you know, I have a history degree, which I never get to use. So let me indulge just for a moment.
Please.
The Gaelic Athletic Association was actually created at a time where there was a lot of organizations being created around the concept of Irish identity in the late 1800s, when the sort of beginning of the push towards Irish independence was growing, right? So the fact that you made a joke that the volunteers, and you are correct, by the way, I shouldn't have totally, you're correct in that it feels a bit like revolutionary, the name the volunteers, because it is.
You're all playing balaclavas.
Right? That was the 70s. So anyway, that was the 70s, bro. So anyway, the 1970s. Anyway, a lot of the GAA clubs do actually have somewhat revolutionary sounding names because it was created as part of the Irish drive for independence.
Well, hang on. So, you've got a history degree. What?
From UCC, the place where you were learning about fairies.
Fairies,
when you were at UCC, that's where my degree is.
So, and what part of history? It's just
Well, I mean,
everything that ever happened.
No, I mean, honestly, in the end, my focus really was mostly Irish history in UCC, and then I did my dissertation, my thesis on female emigration from Cork, from Queenstown, which is now Cove, 1866 to 1886, because after 1866, more women left Ireland than men. And you wonder why I focused on women, because I picked women in Irish society as you had to pick like a broad subject. And the reason I picked it was because it wasn't on a Friday. So if I picked it, then I would always have Fridays off. So just in case you think I'm a rabid feminist, it was actually just about scheduling. So I picked women in Irish society, right? And then I picked female emigration because I am a product of female emigration from Cove. My grandmother left Ireland from that port. So 1866 to 1886, because that period of time, more women left Ireland, and I focused on that as a distinct moment in Irish history.
Right. Well, I think.
I'm sorry to bore you, but you did ask the question.
No. I think it would be, therefore, if you want to use your Irish history degree, is every podcast come on with an Irish history fact that we don't know.
Yeah, that can be a segment.
That could be a segment. The oh my God, don't get stuck with Des at a party segment.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hey, at least my stuff's about real shit, not fucking make-believe characters. You're talking about like Ireland used to have fairies. No, but listen, well, hey, it's always been a bugbear of mine, just to get serious for a sec, that in the British education system, they really completely gloss over how Ireland is, the Republic of Ireland is no longer part of the UK. Because I feel like, you know, the way, like, obviously you don't have certain histories you don't pick, but like the fact that Ireland is no longer part of the UK, that's like a big part of history, because it's not like, oh, they used to be a colony. It's like, it used to be our country and now it's not. And not only that, but there's also a quarter, there's a section of the country that's still part of the UK, which in modern history has caused us untold stress and harm and violence and death. And we have no fucking idea how that happened. So that's a weird thing to just ignore in history. Don't you agree?
Well, yeah, but when you say you don't know how it happened, Michael Collins came up with an agreement in order to try and.
Where'd you learn that? Where do I learn that? You didn't fucking learn that in school, I'll tell you that.
I didn't learn about Irish history in school, and you will often get, it must rile Irish people. You often get people talk about Ireland as if it is part of the UK, particularly people who are not from the UK. But even if you've got if you were to say to people, what's Great Britain, I'm sure some of them include Ireland.
Yeah, well, you know what bugs Irish people, and I didn't know that myself when I moved to Ireland first. I mean, I was only 14, but even growing up in America, people use the term the British Isles. But I never use that term anymore because, like, they don't love that term in Ireland. I mean, it doesn't bug me that much if somebody calls them the British Isles, but it's kind of like, I guess, a dated term now,
Yeah, but it is one of those things where I suppose you take history to learn from it, and you take history to try and see what you're doing that might lead to something else. And like at the moment in the news over there today, anyway, I don't know what it will be like tomorrow, and I don't know what it's like over there, is the fact that the country you're living in, your history is being changed because for the first time ever, a president is ordering the National Guard against the wishes of a local governor.
What kind of British propaganda is this? That he pivoted from a question about why don't you learn about Irish history in school to fucking Donald Trump cracking down on immigrants? Oh my God. Call in the history squad.
Listen, my curriculum in school did not involve it, but I'd be very happy to have a chat about Bismarck and Garibaldi. And
Bismarck is about the reunification of Germany, John.
Exactly.
I also
I know
studied
after
that.
the Franco-Prussian War. I did that as well. Garibaldi in Italy. Yeah,
Italy, yeah, we had to study that. That was all on the curriculum. That was all on the curriculum.
Of course, you have to study Italy. Somehow,
they ignored how 26 counties of Ireland are not part of the UK, and shit was getting blown up for decades, and we don't know why. But you want to talk about Donald Trump?
No, but I educated myself. I educated myself a little bit on Irish history. But I do. No, seriously though, one of those things is like over here right now. You turn on the news and we're getting told he's sending the Marines in, and everyone's panicking.
Oh yeah, no, I knew we were going to get in. I was going to save that for the end because it's so goddamn intense.
This wasn't fucking intense. This was the light-hearted bit. This is the funny bit. Let's go, you English bastards. You don't know why. This was like, I felt like,
but that was joking. That was a fake intent. That was a joking intensity.
I felt like Zelensky then. You kept on leaning forward going, you don't know. You don't know. I'm going, all right, hang on a minute.
Oh, yeah, sorry, but you couldn't tell I was joking?
Of course I could. Of course I could.
I got nervous there for a sec. I was like, oh, shit. No, I'm just playing to that. Oh, actually, because listen, I know British people listen to this. I hope people aren't taking it the wrong way. But, but I do think it's a serious point. It's a weird thing that they don't teach that, but,
Yeah, but also, it's how much did they go to teach? Listen, British education, English education, we do. If we start going through the shit that we've done, we'd never get out of India. You know what I mean? We'd just do all our history be India or Africa or all the other oppressed places that we went to, the Aboriginals that we've killed. We'd never get. We haven't got time to get to the Irish. At least the Irish are happy. At least the Irish have come back and invaded with pubs. If we went through all the shit that we've done to all the other people, Jesus, we'd never get anywhere. But sometimes in the world that we're living in, you're watching history happen and the news moves on so fast that everyone forgets how significant it is. So this thing that he's done is significant.
No, 100%. Of course it's significant. But listen, if I was the president of the United States and I couldn't pass a budget bill, which you stupidly called the big, beautiful bill, if one of my sort of centerpieces was, I'm going to cut back on government waste and I'm going to use the richest man in the world who's just a great businessman, right? If I'd fallen out with that guy so bad that he's telling me that I'm, connected to a pedophile ring, right? If I also, had my FBI director, who's essentially a podcaster, suddenly saying that all our conspiracy theories are bullshit and we're not releasing stuff from the Epstein files. If basically everything, I had a tariff policy that, blew up in smoke. If basically everything I said was going badly, right? And by the way, that Doge committee that was supposedly going to cut back on waste ends up just being a total shambles, and they have to just try to pretend that it wasn't a total shambles. If everything I'd done had been a disaster to the point where literally I looked like a total failure, I think a good strategy would be, let me blow up the media with focus on immigration, which appears to be the only part of my agenda which I'm able to get results on. That's what I would say.
So that's what you think's happening?
Well, it's 100% what's happening, because especially if you're going to do it in California, this place that the whole right side of the political divide of America loves ripping on California. If you've paid attention to the American conservative media, particularly over the last 8 years, it's constantly been that liberal policies in California have turned it into a hellhole of lawlessness and homelessness and the negative parts of immigration, and somebody needs to come in there and crack down on this. It's ideal to go in hard in California right at this time. It's perfect. Listen, I've never been anti-immigration, for the record. I'm the child of an immigrant.
Because you're an immigrant.
Well, I'm an immigrant to Ireland for sure, but I'm the child of an immigrant, and listen. The facts don't add up on the propaganda against immigration. However, I 100% can understand people's concerns about immigration, and I can understand how they want like an orderly immigration system. I can understand their concerns about an open border. I don't have those concerns, but I can understand their concerns. But what I can never understand is people wanting this type of aggressive rounding up of people, because some of these people have been in America for like a decade, and like suddenly their life is just upended. I'm sorry, but I'm not down with that level of enforcement. The border is effectively closed. So if people aren't coming in anymore, right, why don't you just focus on the criminals like you said, and then we'll all just get on with our lives? Because the majority of undocumented people are just working hard for a day's pay. All your focus on crime and all this stuff is just anti-immigrant propaganda. It doesn't add up in the facts. You'll find immigrant crime. You will absolutely find it. But, it's just in line with human crime. It's not specifically more from an immigrant. It's just some humans commit crimes. It's just the way it is. Sorry, that's my spiel. I mean, you asked me.
No, you know what? The difficulty is when you do this the way that we're doing it, and it's meant to be what it is. It's a conversation about whatever the conversation is about. Sometimes you're going to touch
except
on
I'm
stuff
making
like
speeches.
We're going to touch on stuff like that, and Des is going to want to try and get an honorary lecturing job in Cork University, the history of the Irish people and what's wrong with Donald Trump. And listen, it's just a mad thing. It's a mad thing, and there is a playbook that if you want to take over a country, you create a fear within a country, and then you send in the army to fix the fear. And that's a playbook that has been repeated loads of times.
This was literally going to happen from the get-go. They were going to go in strong. They knew people were going to fucking freak out, and then they were going to send in the military because they want to escalate it, especially when everything was going so bad for Trump. This motherfucker has fail after fail after fail. So this is ideal. Just change the narrative. This guy has been changing the narrative on a dime for both of his presidencies. That's literally what he does.
So I went to see Bruce Springsteen last week in Liverpool. I've just realised this, that I hadn't done it by the time we did this. So I went to see Bruce Springsteen, and there's a bit where Bruce comes on and he does his speech about Donald Trump and how he's unfit and people running the country in America and not the American he's been singing about to us all these years. And like he done that. And then Donald Trump put a message out going, Bruce Springsteen's a washed up singer. Have you seen the state of his face? And it was absolutely ridiculous that the man who's supposed to be the head of the free world has got time to fucking respond to what somebody said about him on stage at Liverpool. It's pathetic.
I don't want to depress the listeners, but I really don't think that humanity as we know it can survive the internet. No, I've been saying it. I stand by it. We can't. We can't survive the way information is disseminated in our current form.
No.
Everywhere is getting more divided.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah, you are right, and I think there's the you can't work your way through anything. The reality is like there just needs to be. Somebody needs to tell you the news on Monday, and then there'd be no news until Friday,
But that's the whole point I'm saying is we're not going to survive this amount of information
No,
because
that's
it's
what
all
I mean. It's an
misinformation.
overload. It's an overload. And so what you can do if something bad's happening, you can deflect it by just putting more shit in the way.
Yeah, but for some reason, though, the reason why I brought up immigration specifically, though, is for some reason that seems to be the thing that gathers the most support for people to have for people to get behind horrible policies. And I don't quite know why. I never understand why people are so anti-immigration.
Because it's a very easy. It's a them and us, and it's very easy to identify the them if they're not from the same place as the us. So you can say it's definitely them. All of my problems are them, and because they've come, I haven't got the life that I wanted because they've come.
100%.
It's because of them. It's not because of everything else that could have been fixed before anybody even thought of coming here. It's because of them, and it's a very easy thing to do, and you go right through human history. It's always been the same. It's always been the same. Just find the other in different people. Find the other in them and then blame them for your life.
The real issue, obviously, is inequality, right? And if you could find a sense of people feeling like, things are starting to improve inequality-wise, then they'll back off looking for the problem. The issue, though, is that it won't, because people are just constantly getting fed that things are bad, because people really benefit from, being constantly pushed. Like, if you listen to Trump's language, like, whenever he's not in charge, he talks about, like, America like it's a fucking hellhole, you know? And it's just not true.
I know, but I think for the sake of this podcast and the fact
Stop worrying about the podcast. This is the conversation, John. Stop fucking worrying.
I know, but I tell you what it is with me, Des. I'm slightly annoyed with myself because I'm abstaining from the issues, because I can't be arsed filling my life with the toxic shit that other people are filling their life with. And I can't be arsed trying to make knobheads better people by trying to make them change their mind. I just think you're a fucking prick. You live over there and I live over there. As long as you don't come through my gate, I'll be all right. But the problem is you do that too much, and then all of a sudden there's more of them than you, and that's not the way it should be. So there's got to be a line, and I feel myself moving towards something where I'm going to go, that'll be the line. And I'd say there's a little bit as well, like with what we do as a job. You can go on a stage and you might only be talking to 200 people, but you can make a point in a joke that allows people to at least know where you stand. Like this week, we went up to see Bruce Springsteen, and Bruce is great, and he does his speech about Trump and all that stuff. And we'll go, yeah, we're all on that side of history with you, Bruce. But you've still got, you still got to put a good show on. Like if Bruce came on and just went, this is what I think Donald Trump's a knobhead, and was shit, wouldn't have had the effect. It was, and I am not kidding you, one of the best concerts I've ever been to. It was, and I don't know whether it was the company I was with, it's the fact that it was at Anfield, it was the fact that we brought Daniel, my son, who wasn't really a Bruce fan, and he was blown away by it. It's the fact that we were with Melanie's best friend Jane, and his son and daughter, who are also Bruce fans, who's Melanie's known all her life. Maybe it was the fact that, it's nearly 40 years since Melanie first saw him with Jane in Leeds, and there was a whole combination of these things happening. And then he comes on, and he was on stage for 3 hours, and he made his Trump speech, so he won that crowd over. And you think, okay, I've got greater affinity with you, but you're still a rock star in a stadium. And he was brilliant. The songs on the playlist cover so many albums, but again, I wouldn't have recognised every single song, but the bangers got dropped at the right point. It was outstanding. And then the next day we were meant to go to Mallorca, and instead we spent 4 days, only got back here yesterday, drove through Wales, through mid-Wales, the middle of Wales, and listening to podcasts on the way, not listening to the news, just had a couple of days with each other, picking a different hotel each night. And honestly, it was fucking brilliant. It was raining. It was all of the things that you'd expect in Wales and in England. And it was brilliant. So when you're having a brilliant time, you don't want to stop and go, oh, it's 6 o'clock. It's time to turn the television on and get some toxic fucking negativity in our lives that we can talk about over dinner. So you've got to have that balance between being informed, being engaged, and being able to, like, enjoy your life.
But John, you've never sounded older than it's 6 o'clock. Let's turn on the news. It's like Bruce Springsteen's great. It was raining. We were relaxing. I wasn't going to turn on the BBC and listen to bad news from around the planet. I mean, come on. Listen, John, I'm totally with you, man. I get it. You know, you don't want to.
It's fucking hard. It is hard. It's.
By the way, you want to hear a funny thing about the Bruce Springsteen stuff? So obviously, the MAGA people are pissed off at Bruce because a lot of people that voted for Trump like Bruce Springsteen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
They're heavily represented in that area. So apparently, I can't verify this, but it was definitely put out there. Some fucking guy in New Jersey, some bar owner, canceled a Bruce Springsteen tribute act because of the shit that Bruce Springsteen was saying. So some poor dude that might have even voted for fucking Trump, some fucking wedding singer that cranks out Bruce hits on a Saturday night in bars around New Jersey, fucking lost his fucking job because Bruce can't keep his mouth shut.
That's funny. But no, honestly, it was great. But so anyway, so we're staying in these different hotels. And then something happened in the last one, which was this hotel near Bath called the Pig. And we small hotels all the way through. She picked one, I picked one, and we stayed at this hotel. And we get there on a Sunday afternoon, and we're sort of in the gardens of this hotel. And we're mid-conversation having a drink, and this woman come over and said, "Oh, I'm a fan, can I have a picture?" And I was literally in a deep conversation with Manny. I said, "Well, look, can I just have a minute?" Not now. I said, "Are you staying here?" She said, "No, I'm at this 60th birthday party." I said, "Well, maybe I'll catch you later, but can I just finish off?" She goes, yeah, fine, I'll see you later. So she walks off. And Melanie said, "I'm glad you said that because, you're normally getting up and accommodating people, and that means we've lost this moment." I said, right, okay. So then I go to check into my room, but my room is in the garden area facing this 60th birthday party. So as they try to check me in this room, someone else comes out of the party and says, "Oh, can I have a selfie?" And this is someone of similar age to me. And I went, "Well, I'm just trying to get into my room, but maybe later." Yeah, okay. I said, and she said, "I'm at the party." I'm going, right, so every now and the party knows what room I'm going to be staying in. But then I thought, so I just went into the room, came out of the room, and as I came out the room, there's a young lad stood there. So everyone else who spoke to me at this point looked like the right age to be at a 60th birthday party. They looked in that age bracket. And then there was a young lad there in his early 20s, and he just went, "Oh, hiya, can I have a selfie?" And I went, "Why?" And he went, "Why not?" I said, "Because I'm having a day off." He went, "All right, please yourself," and walked off. And I thought, that's the first time I've ever said to somebody, "Why?" And then I realised he's probably no idea who I am. He's probably not a fan. I bet he's not listening to this. There was somebody that other people were asking for pictures of, so he wanted to grab one. And so I went back to Melanie, and I said, and I told her what happened, and also, to be fair to the hotel, they moved the room so that we didn't have to walk through the party to get to the room. So they put us in a different room. But I suddenly thought, it was actually, when I've been asked in the past, and the amount of times I've stopped what I'm doing to go, yeah, it's only a minute. And I've always said, anyone who's ever asked me, I said, yeah, it doesn't bother me, it's only a minute. because I've always thought it only takes a minute, but it stops you doing what you're doing. It stops you being with who you're with. And for a lot of the time, if you just say, "I know I'd rather not," or "not now," or "why do you want it?" People aren't that bothered. They're not going to turn around and go, "Because I've always wanted to meet you. It's a really special moment in my life." They just go, "Because I fucking bumped into you and you're here. I've never even thought about you. You'd never enter my head. This is not a dream moment for me. It's just that it's you or Noel Edmonds. There's nobody else available today, so you'll do." Yeah. And honestly, it was like a revelation to me that I can actually go, "No, I'd rather not," and people won't be that bothered.
No, I mean, listen, you're entitled to the time where you just don't want to be bothered. It's tough. Listen,
it's an odd one. It was just really odd for me that just because we'd had these really 4 days of just me and Melanie just on our own and in a little bubble, and it just felt like somebody was bursting it for no particular reason. Yeah, and maybe I'm being a little bit up my own arse.
But the thing is, here's the problem, right? Nobody's going to identify with your concern now.
No,
like it doesn't get a lot of sympathy. Your sentiment,
and I don't think it should. I'm just saying from a personal experience. It was the first time I'd ever said to anybody. I mean, I've even done that thing. When you were talking the other day about I wouldn't give them the satisfaction where people pretend to. Like I've even done that. I've even done that thing where people go, "Oh God, sorry, what's your name?" And I've told them my name. And they've gone, "Okay, now can I have a picture with you?"
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like I'm asking for it. Yeah, I'm literally saying, "Oh,
what's your name?"
yeah, exactly. So there's a little bit.
I just say it's John Bishop, and I tell him to fuck off. I say John Bishop, he doesn't take selfies.
It's just a funny thing. And listen, I'm not sort of saying I'm going to be doing that all the time or that by any means. It was just a real. As soon as I said to this kid, "Why?" Went, "Oh, why not? Why not?" And then he just turned around and walked away. That was the end of it. It was so funny for me. The interaction just felt so odd and against anything that I've ever experienced before. And it wasn't like no one was angry. I think he suddenly realised, why? Yeah, why?
But also, if it gets to the stage where it's pissing off your spouse. I don't mean your spouse specifically. I mean one's spouse. Or there's there's a time where it's like people are getting pissed off. Then you kind of have to you have to take the hit, I guess, and be like, well, am I going to piss off this random person that I don't know? Or am I going to take the hit later on when somebody's going to be back in the hotel room fucking pissed off at me because, I've been taking selfies all night. This is the great conundrum.
I've had that. And that's what came into the conversation with me. Melanie, she's saying, "Well, that's good because, in the past you haven't done it." And I've gone, "But in the past it's been hard." And she's going, "Well, it's not hard. You just say, 'Not now, I'm with my wife,' or 'Not now, I'm with me dad.' And if anyone's got any respect, they'll leave it alone. And if they don't...
Happy wife, happy life. Selfie on the shelfie.
That's it. That's what I'm going to do. So now I'm going to say no. And when they say why, I'm going to say because I like sex. And you're not going to give me sex. And she might.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she will, but I'm saying she might.
Have you ever been so vain when you take a selfie with somebody and then you see the selfie? And you say,
do it again.
Nah,
100%. Yeah, do it again.
I'm fucking having that posted.
Give me a minute.
Delete that.
Let me get the hair done. Turn over there. Hang on.
Exactly.
Let me book in a spray tan. See you in an hour.
I always felt like that. People feel more connected to us because we're being ourselves on stage. I feel like actors have a degree of separation from who they are. Yeah. So that's part of it too.
Yeah.
It's just one of those. The problem though too is that people don't identify with this concern because it's a very distinct group of people.
Yeah, I suppose that's the other thing. When I said to him why, and he said why not? Because I suppose the other thing you go, well, why not? Why wouldn't you? It takes a second. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So I don't even know why I brought this up because now I feel bad.
Nah, it's fine.
It's interesting how much when I've been in public with you and people stop you for a photo, they're like so dismissive of me, which is fine because like I get it, but like I can imagine being, you know, your
Is
wife
your
or your family member.
partner
It's
or
quite,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And like we went to a thing, we went to the Zip World, right? Where it's the longest zip line in Europe and the fastest in the world, apparently. Goes up to 100 miles an hour over this quarry in Wales. So, and we went, and they have a famous person board. So, and one of me mates has mentioned that his mate was involved in it, but I didn't want to go down that route and get somewhere. We just booked it online and went with a group. So so I got into this place, and a couple of the people who were milling around and said, "Oh, can I have a picture?" And it was a guy there. It was his 70th birthday, and that was all dead fine. And then when we went on the thing, we were with the group, but we're chatting to everybody. And then at the end, you know, I had pictures with some of the staff and. Pictures was there, and they were absolutely fine, and it felt even appropriate. You know, Melanie taking the pictures, it was absolutely fine because we were part of it. Nobody invaded our space. We were with everybody else. So I think that's the difference when you sat having a meal or you sat having when you sat obviously in conversation with your partner, someone coming over and interrupting that conversation in the belief that you might say, "Oh yeah, I'll stop what I'm doing to have spend time with you," is when you think about it, very unfair. So
just a practical thing. I haven't been able to hear for the last like 2 minutes. It was all. I guess my connection is bad. I guess.
Oh my God, that was the funniest bit of the pod.
I know. I just missed it. I can't
funny.
hear it.
I mean, I've been working on that little piece. I tried to
tell.
I'm trying to lift the pod up and make it a fun experience for everyone. And you just fucking checked out. That was so good, that bit. So
I was acting like I was listening.
Good. Yeah, well, I can tell you're married now.
Let's just do one other topic. Let me mention a topic that was bothering me this morning. And I know that it's kind of hack to talk about the difference between cats and dogs, but I'm married to a cat person, okay? And I've never been anti-cat, but I have a small allergy to cats. Definitely cats can irritate my eyes and cause me to be a bit sneezy. How do you feel, before we get into it, how do you guys feel about cats?
I love cats.
Go on, you tell us what you think about cats, Brad.
No.
And then I'll stick it to you.
I love cats and don't like dogs. People think that's a red flag.
Yeah. And because of that, Bradley doesn't stay at my house.
Oh, that's right.
He does not stay at my house. Anytime he's working near me, he stays down the road.
You said that you were going to respond.
Oh, yeah. So
to what Brad was saying.
No, because you were talking about being slightly allergic. So my sister was allergic to cats, so we never had cats growing up, ever. And then when my mum passed away, my dad went to see my auntie, and she ended up going to my cousin's house. And my cousin had this litter of kittens, and one of these kittens latched onto me dad. So my dad ended up taking it home. So my dad is now 84 and having all his life never had cats. He's got this house cat now that he's had probably for 2 years. Big bundle of fur, and the interaction between him and that cat is not something I would ever have expected. So he lives with the cat. There's just him and the cat in the house, and they've just got this lovely relationship. And then when my dad goes to bed, he goes, "Go up," and the cat comes to bed. It's brilliant. It's a lovely thing, and I would never, ever have imagined that happening with my dad and a cat.
Yeah, so the reason why I bring this up, which that's beautiful, and I'm not anti-cat, right? But Hannah is like really pro-cat. She's not anti-dog, but she was more anti-dog before she met me. I happened to be in the fostering dog part of my life when she met me, so she kind of came around to it. But anyway, one of her big things about dogs is that she basically says they're like sluts, right? That like they'll be with anybody. So like you think your dog is like your best friend, then somebody else walks in and they're just as excited to see them, and they will literally within 24 hours be bound to the next person, right? And
That's fair enough.
you know, that's fine, and it's funny. And she's like, cats are very like, you know, particular, and you know, but obviously there's all different types of cats, all different types of dogs, and all these things are sweeping generalizations. So the reason why I bring this up is Hannah has the most complicated cat of all time. She had her before I met her, and I inherited Butter. Butter has no time for anybody else, and definitely no time for other cats, and absolutely no time for other dogs. And Butter is like, all we're going to have for our lives is Butter until Butter is no longer with us, because Butter is just Butter. And Butter loves Hannah. Loves Hannah.
Why don't you get a dog and call it Bread? And have bread and butter.
But I mean, I would love it. I would absolutely, or get a cat called Jam. Like I would love that. But it's impossible. Butter like is the most particular. So something happened to Butter. We had to go to the veterinary hospital last year, and I actually Hannah couldn't come. I was on my own, and the vet comes out and says, "Is this cat feral?" Like he'd never experienced like such an insanely like doesn't want to be around people cat, you know? So anyway, this is a very long-winded answer. So I've been living with Butter now for 5 years, and slowly over the years, Butter has come around to, you know, accepting me, and on the rare occasion, you know, Butter will, you know, like cuddle up to me. So anyway, I'm out here the last 2 days without Hannah, and Butter's here now, right? Butter's out in West Hampton now for the summer. And
as you would expect.
yeah, so like last night and today, like Butter is my best friend. And it happens sometimes, like Butter can't get enough of me, like cuddle up to me. And this isn't the first time it's happened, right? But this is why it brings me up, because Hannah says dogs are sluts. The minute Hannah comes back, Butter will treat me like the enemy. So she's only using me because I'm the only bit of love that she could get. The minute her actual wife comes back, she will treat me like a piece of shit. And I would prefer a slut dog that wants to ride everybody than a fucking evil cat that only needs me when Hannah's not around. Because I feel used. Don't be my best friend when Hannah's not around and then act like I'm a fucking asshole, you know? Unless she's afraid to let Hannah know that we're having an affair, you know? Maybe Butter's like being sneaky, being like, oh, you know, don't let Hannah know what's going on. When she's not around. Butter doesn't know that I'm sending Hannah videos all the time.
Oh my God, you're outing Butter to Hannah on sneaky videos.
Yeah.
Oh,
Revenge porn.
Revenge porn.
She's bisexual.
Revenge pussy porn with butter. Spreading butter everywhere. That's I feel I'm on Butter's side now.
Well, yeah, but this bitch will fucking hiss at me when Hannah's around.
Really?
Yeah, she'll fucking be like, I'm like, yo, I'm going to feed you, bitch. I'm going to fucking feed you. It's fine. Butter and Hannah have this special bond, and that's great. But like, as far as cats go, like, she's a complicated cat. And I've experienced now, you know, other cats and stuff. And like, there's a dog spectrum too, obviously, but the cat spectrum is very vast. If any of Hannah's fans listen to this, they'll be very angry because they're very defensive of Butter. I sometimes get heckled.
They got to see it from your point of view.
I sometimes get heckled at my own shows by people. They'll be like, "What about Butter?" Because they're like Hannah fans and they know all about Butter.
Justice for Butter.
You get a lot of justice. You get a lot of justice for Butter stuff. Are you aware of the whole justice for somebody thing, John? Did we lose? Am I gone?
No. I think John's gone.
No, what happened? No, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so something came up like a meta thing. And then it was like Siri or something saying, I found out on the web what is for butter. What is butter or something? It must have heard what I was saying. I was like, what? So it went off for a minute. All right, listen, I've got to shoot. I've got stuff I've got to do. Yeah, because we'll have to. So, brilliant. Brad, good luck.
Good chat,
thanks
guys.
for, listen. No, it was good chat. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bishop Exchange. Don't forget to do all the normal stuff. The like, subscribe, all of that malarkey.
Sound off in the comments.
Keep giving us feedback. The more feedback that we can get, the better we can make this.
All right.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody.
Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.
Ta-ra, lads. Ta-ra.
Bye.
Bye.